terms of accessing informal support, did increased isolation from social networks created by the lockdown conditions create further abuse opportunities?
Yes, definitely. I think just thinking about a lot of the information that you have put forward, the key thing to understand is where Black, minoritized, migrant women and other disadvantaged groups are at the beginning of the pandemic.
Yes.
So for the beneficiaries that access our services, for example, we know that they are in overcrowded accommodation. They're going to have very precarious employment, usually no recourse to public funds, no access to healthcare services, and so on and so forth.
Yes.
So we already know that the conditions are there for, the increase in domestic abuse to happen, because a lot of avenues are already closed to them. As the pandemic comes on, you realize that if you're in precarious employment, for example, as a cleaner, you still have to go out there and you still have to work. In some cases, employers took the opportunity to reduce contracts, but then you still have no recourse to public funds. So the employer will decrease your income. The state will not supplement it in any way through furlough scheme or access to welfare benefits. You're going to be at higher risk because you are in overcrowded housing, and then you're under the control of the perpetrator. So that means that for these women, the risk of domestic abuse is much higher to begin with. It increases with COVID. And then you have all the opportunities that the lockdown and the pandemic itself presents to them. So either you're going to be at risk of infection, for example, if the perpetrator refuses to abide by the restrictions, or you're going to be at risk of becoming unemployed if, for example, the perpetrator decides to control your access to data, if you can work from the home, or decides to control access to money, and suddenly you can't be on public transport in order to go to your job, or will have control of the bank accounts, and so on and so forth. So the effects of all of these things happening, so the things that were before, the things that happened during the pandemic, is that by the end of it, not only have women experienced higher rates of domestic abuse or increased instances of domestic abuse, but by the end of it, their position is going to be even more precarious than it was at the beginning. There is a lot that we have seen, and we knew this as the pandemic was happening, and I was having conversations, for example, to access funding. I said to the funders, this is not, once the healthcare restrictions ease up, this crisis is going to be lasting for 3 to 5 years after that happens. And I have not been proved wrong in what we're seeing coming to services, so levels of debt, the fact that, for example, if you need emergency accommodation, you need to move houses, then suddenly you have to find new employment.
Yes.
All of those situations will carry on much, much longer, leading to worse outcomes in terms of equality. And I would say not only gender equality, but racial and ethnic minority equality as well. When you have two in the same person, then the effects are going to be much higher and much longer lasting.
Yes.